From Fox News, Planned Parenthood offering free abortions and vasectomies at the DNC. I would just like to open this up by saying thank you to the Democrats and Planned Parenthood. I have never wanted to donate to Planned Parenthood more in my life. Free vasectomies for Democratic men at DNC conventions. Is there a way we can ramp this up and get it at every Democrat event? I'm wondering if, like David Pakman, Hassan, or like Harry Sisson perhaps would like to join me in an effort to get these mobile Planned. What they have is these trucks, these buses, where you walk in on the bus, they give you the snip and the twist, and no more babies for you. And I'm saying, I am all about helping the Democrats in this endeavor. I'm actually only about a quarter joking, not even half joking. If these people want to get vasectomies, I encourage it. Indeed. I know there's a lot of people who are like, this is wrong. It's disgusting. Okay. All right. Well, let me pull up some tweets on the matter, actually. I have the story here, but I do want to pull up a specific tweet that shows the actual bus from Planned Parenthood, which I find to be quite humorous. Indeed, humorous. And let me scroll down a little bit, because you have the story about them. Here we go. Planned Parenthood of Great Rivers. Take a look at this. Healthcare, no matter where. Planned Parenthood bus. Come on in to our Class A camper. Sit on down and we will snip and twist and you will never have babies. Fox says Planned Parenthood is offering more than a free t-shirt or sticker. The organization will offer free vasectomies and medical abortions and emergency contraception. Planned Parenthood Great Rivers of St. Louis announced in the next post, the bus is headed to the bus is headed to the DNC in Chicago to offer free services. Here you go. All free vasectomy and medication abortions are filled for our mobile health clinic in Chicago. Check back soon. We will share the interest form link again if we have cancellations. I just want to state my disgust at the idea of just mechanizing and industrializing women terminating their children and men removing their ability to have children. That being said, my actual non-jokey position is, I think abortion is wrong. I think vasectomies are a personal choice. Whatever. If you don't have kids, you don't have to have kids. And people who don't want to have kids probably shouldn't have kids. I think abortion is wrong, however. I am not a staunch pro-lifer. I'm more of a 1990s pro-choicer, which means I don't like saying pro-choice because the Democratic pro-choice these days is like abortion up to the point of birth, which is psychotic. No, I'm more of I don't know how you outright illegalize all abortions in every circumstance. So there's got to be some discretion between a doctor and the woman, though I think abortion as contraception is wrong. It should be heavily restricted and it should be kept within certain bounds. Typically, most conservatives do agree with exceptions for rape and incest. And as clarified by many conservatives, not all, is that many view incest to be rape. They don't mean like a brother and sister. They mean like a pair, like a dad abusing a daughter or something like that, or an uncle or something like that. So it's always about consent. And I think it's a fair compromise. I had this conversation with Crowder too and Glenn Beck. The compromise in the instance of rape is very difficult. Indeed it is. Because the pro-life argument is that it's not the child's fault. And most conservatives actually, I shouldn't say most conservatives, but many prominent conservatives are of the position that rape should not be an exception. I think that is the logical position for pro-lifers to hold. But that being said, I view myself more as a libertarian-leaning, traditional pro-choice individual, substantially leaning more towards the life argument than the current Democrat version argument. That being said, with what they're doing, they're eliminating themselves they're selecting themselves out of the gene pool. And it's tough, isn't it? You don't like to see it. We are compassionate people that want the best for everybody. But they've decided, beep, beep, Chicago, we're headed your way to provide free vasectomies and abortions. I can only tell you this. It's a self-correcting problem. You needn't say more. You can argue, you can scream, you can spit and yowl, and you can cry into the wind. But these people have cast their votes. And as peace-loving conservatives, they are not willing to engage in any kind of extreme forceful actions to stop the process of abortion. That being said, the problem ends up solving itself when these people eliminate themselves from the gene pool, and those who are more likely to be in favor of abortions will just over a long enough period of time cease to exist. But let's start from the beginning then. Let's start from the beginning. What does it mean to actually oppose abortion? Right now in this country, overwhelmingly, conservatives say it's wrong and we should vote to restrict or end it. Many conservatives take the position that states should choose for themselves, though a lot of the more prominent staunch pro-lifers say it should be banned federally. Okay. Well, I would say only a tiny fraction of conservatives and pro-lifers that I've ever talked to have ever considered violence in response to defending the life of a baby from an abortion. The question is this. I asked this on the Timcast Uncensored show to many a pro-lifer. If you were walking in, say, like a rural area in Nebraska or something, and you saw a man whipping another man in chains, the man in chains is screaming and begging for help. He's beating me. He's going to kill me. You have a gun. Would you intervene to save the man who is being chained up and mercilessly beaten by this other man? Overwhelmingly, people say yes, hoping that we don't have to use force at all. But this guy's going to kill the other guy. And self-defense is allowed when you're defending the lives of others. It is considered self-defense to defend yourself or the life of another if they're facing great bodily harm or death. Not even just death, great bodily harm. Well, being whipped would do that. I say, okay, so you would actually use your weapon and say, or train to say, stop doing that now or else. And I ask, if the guy then refuses and threatens to kill that man, would you save him? Most people say yes. It's begrudging. Some people joke and say, oh, I'd have no problem saving. Most people are like, you don't want to hurt somebody, but you can't let murderers murder. And it's sad, a tragic circumstance, but the law agrees. This is a circumstance where the good guys have to defend the other person. So then I ask many of these same individuals. A doctor is in a clinic and you're walking by and you see in the window, there is a baby at 8.5 months. And the doctor's like, nope, we're going to end it. And he takes the tool. They use this long tool to snip the spinal column, to kill it, and then pull it out piece by piece. I'm not saying these are common. That's not the argument. This is an argument about the moral distinction. And many pro-lifers say, I will not intervene with force in that event. And I say then, there is some distinction between two men, and with one man about to kill the other, and a woman and a baby, and a doctor is about to kill the baby. Most conservatives said they would not intervene in that regard. And I said, but would it not be the same thing as intervening to save the life of an innocent child from someone who seeks to do it great bodily harm? And most conservatives say, no. I have had a few say, no question. Absolutely, it's the same thing. Most say no. And so with that being said, I tell you where we are. Conservatives are peace-loving. They're tolerant. And that's unfortunate for conservatives. Not that we want to see violence. We don't. What I'm saying is that they tolerate. They allow people to engage in practices over a long enough period of time outside of the means of government. They say live and let live over and over again. And we talk about liberals and conservatives, but conservatives have created the liberals. This was a conservative Christian country for its entirety up until, I think only the past couple of decades, it started becoming more secular. So what happens then is the law changes. Abortions become allowed. And conservatives keep saying, look, we're just going to try and vote. We will not engage in violence. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people attacked abortion clinics. In the 90s, these stories were happening quite a bit. My point is, not to the extent you'd expect someone who really opposes abortion. What that means is, for me, I absolutely oppose violence. I think it's not going to win you anything politically. But unfortunately, then we come to this end result. Democrats will abort their children and get vasectomies because the law allows it. No one is willing to do anything to stop them outside of any legal framework. And so it will keep happening. In 20 to 40 years, it will end. It's a self-correcting problem. These individuals will not have children. They will try to indoctrinate in other ways. It will fail. I'm sorry, it will fail. It will fail. And I'll say it again, it will fail. Many people like to say they don't have kids, they recruit. Doesn't matter. Literally does not matter. You are looking at the victories of Donald Trump. You're looking at Gen Z in some areas shifting more rightward only because conservatives have more kids. Islam is a much stronger component than Christianity. They have substantially more kids than Christians. But either way, I assure you, religious fundamentalist views are more likely to survive out over secular liberal ones. A teacher may try to indoctrinate a child, but a parent, let's put it this way. Dearborn, Michigan. What do you think a religious, devout Muslim parent would do if they find out their kid was being indoctrinated in such a way? They'd take them out. They'd say, you're not going to the school anymore. We're not going to let these teachers talk to you. We saw it in Birmingham in the UK. Talked about it last Friday on the Culture War podcast. Conservatives, I would say run-of-the-mill, more conservative-leaning individuals in this country may ignore this, allowing Democrats to indoctrinate kids for sure. But indoctrination will always be a weaker force over literally just having kids. That's it. Now, social media is the bigger risk. But because conservatives have recognized this and have begun putting pressure on these systems, you can see conservatives not only have more kids, but they're engaged in a culture war which would disrupt the indoctrination pipeline. The math is clear. Over a long enough period of time, Democrats will select themselves out and their worldview will cease to exist. That's it. Maybe it's 20, 40, 60, 80 years. I don't know. But that worldview cannot survive if it is based on bringing buses to their political conventions to give vasectomies to their political leaders. I want to stress this. I'm not saying Joe Biden's going and getting snipped. I'm not saying that you're looking at prominent Democrat politicians getting abortions. I am saying the people who go to the DNC are delegates. They are the most politically active of the Democratic Party. And those are the people being offered up vasectomies and abortions. They will not reproduce. They will not have kids. And their indoctrination can only go so far. Over a long enough period of time, it is done. That's just reality. That's just reality. They can do whatever they want. I would prefer it if we had stricter regulations, but we don't, for a variety of reasons. Conservatives, Christians have been very tolerant. They've allowed this to happen. And now it's happening. And conservatives to this day still allow it to happen. And it will. Until it won't happen anymore. That's it. Because there won't be enough liberals to vote for it. Eventually, they will select enough of themselves out of this population that the vote will happen. You have 100 people. 50 of them are conservative, 50 of them are Democrats. The 50 conservatives each have 2 children. The Democrats, the other 50, are having 1. So what does that mean? It means but in one generation, you are going to have 150 conservative voters. Not so much, but let's just say flat, and 75. You went from 50-50 to 75-25. Well, actually, is it 75-25? It's not, but it's 2-1. So 66-33. And let's just say that there is some defection rate among the children of conservatives because conservatives are terrible at culture for whatever reason. What? You're going to flip that? No. It may even just end up 55-45. One more generation. 150. Let's say the original 50 have already had their 2 kids, so they don't have any more kids. But the 100 children each have 2 children of their own. So now you're going from 100 to 300. Or I should say, it's actually, my math is wrong. Each are replacing themselves because 2 parents makes 2 kids. If each individual had 2 kids, it's 4 kids. So let's just say that. Let's just say that. It goes from 50 to 100 and Democrats to 75. And then the process repeats. Over a long enough period of time, the Democrat growth is stagnant. People start dying. More people are dying because they're not replacing themselves. And let's just say after 100 years, Republicans have replaced themselves. And there's 50 and there's 10 Democrats. Population decline. But Democrats won't be voting for anything at that point. The real point is this. It can take only a single generation to get to the point where you have a single percentage point advantage and the Republicans all vote for banning abortion and then abortion gets banned. Then for the next 20 to 40 years, Democrats aren't getting abortions. More Democrats are born. And then those Democrats old enough, they vote for abortion and it ebbs and flows. That could be a real potential outcome. But I suppose all we can do is just sit back and see. Democrats want this. Congratulations. You can have it. You can have it, Democrats. Smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. And for everybody who's watching, the next segment will be up at 6. This one's messed up. Real messed up story. A dude saying that he should not have to disclose that he has HIV. And the women on the show agreeing with him, being like, yeah, of course, of course. This is the state of the Democratic Party and the things they're trying to introduce. So that'll be up at 6 p.m. for those that are watching live right now. We'll go to your super chats. Everybody else, thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all at 6.